Hello and good evening. Today I'm with
Hello,
Alain.
good
Hi,
evening, Manfred.
and good evening. And we talk about an experiment Alain was doing with Spring Boot and Angular micro frontends. So, Alain, stage is yours.
Okay, so first, thank you very much for having me. I reached out to you quite some time ago, and I was wondering maybe if the issue was interesting. Anyway, we'll see with the time, but I think it's quite nice. So our project is running around Spring Boot and Angular micro frontend, and the issue that we are seeking to resolve is having dynamic application plugins in this kind of environment. Uh, a word about me. So I work in web technologies since 2001, working with Angular since the very early versions, with Ionic and around Android also. Working mostly around the Spring Boot backend because my company at the time was working mostly around Java, and that's one of the reasons why I worked with Android also. So around Spring Boot from a long time, and I think I like it. And well, I saw that Java developers they enjoy going with the Angular. They are familiar with the infrastructure and the applications, and most of the time, from my experience, it's a success in terms of developer experience. And also, I'm a quick fan, and I enjoy this new framework. And no wonder why I fell into quick because of Mishko, obviously. So our context, we are a company. Is it here? Yeah, the company, it's Connective IT. It's a small company that's now part of a bigger group, mostly in computer science. And we are an application editor. We are installing applications at the client's infrastructure, and we need to produce control versions and in a specific context. So it's one application or maybe multiple application, but let's talk about one application at a time, and we need to deploy at a specific environment on a specific technical stack. So it's both Spring Boot and Angular bundled together. All right. So it's not the fashion way to develop a front end and back end as we see very often now today with the dedicated front end hosting and dedicated back end hosting with specific container and cloud configuration. Okay, so we have classical Tomcat server, or now that we migrate toward this technology, it's basically the same, but you can put your Tomcat into a container and enjoy the cloud facility and everything it offers you as infrastructure. So the goals. So what were our goals, and they are still today, because disclaimer: this project is not over. It's ongoing. So we need to deploy a plugin system for our applications and add functionalities to an existing application. Okay, it's running. We don't want to publish it again. We don't want to alter the source code, and we don't want to build a new version. Okay, so the application is installed at the client, and the most we want to do is maybe restart the application, the context of the server, and enjoy the new functionality. Okay, so we need to adapt, of course, to the core technology of Spring Boot and the choices that we made earlier for our applications. We don't want to change everything just for the sake of finding the way to develop this plugin system. A few elements: we want to add an application, and it's classical because our application are mostly technical application with a left menu and many entries and many search forms and applications. So we need new entries in an application menu, new API endpoints, and new screens. So that's our goal. What we did, a few choices. It was, well, of course, staying with the unified Spring Boot context. It means we at first, when we discussed this issue, I was wondering, okay, we want to add a new functionality, but the application doesn't know. Okay, I know that we could use the module federation, but okay, our application is already bundled, and I don't see very well how we could use the micro front-end with the different hosting. It will be very complicated, and maybe we will need to deploy another application. We didn't want that. Okay, we wanted to stay within the Spring Boot context of the Maven modules. Okay, so we said, okay, maybe we can enjoy the same hosting as the application. Means we have the Spring Web context that offers the possibility to literally host multiple endpoints within the same Spring context. Okay, and I will show you what I mean with that. And about the authentication, well, it's not really an issue because the micro front-end we are adding to the existing application, well, it will be a part of the existing application, and the authentication will be handled by the existing application. So it from our perspective, from where we are now, we should not have a specific issue with authentication. So all components are behind the Spring Authent. We think, and we are trying to make an Angular library, so to expose multiple feature in one plugin. That's one goal. So we develop a plugin and would like to have one and more entries in the menu and one and more screen added to the application. Based on that, we thought that because we already use NGRX in our application, we could use NGRX shared context and maybe listening for actions through the different features, and unify by conventions how the micro front-end will discuss with the core application. That's our goal. The implementation. Okay, so we had a few prerequisites in the Spring Boot. So we have a core module, a Maven module that will be shared and known by the library and the application. We will deploy a standalone Maven module, and I will show you quickly how it looks. And we will basically allow multiple front-end application hosting, and they will end up in the same context of the application. So no different port, only a different path on the application. And this is a little bit tricky because, as you know, when you hit an URL on your Spring server, it will catch this URL, and if it's not configured very well, you will end up in very difficult issues. So we have a provider pattern. In the point is to enrich the manifest endpoint. That's where we are now, and I will show you. It's quite elegant, and it's out of the box from Spring Boot, and it says, okay, when the application is starting, the context of Spring is looking for everything that basically implements our manifest provider, and we will have multiple provider endpoints, manifest endpoints that will describe our multiple micro frontends. Okay. About Angular, of course, we had this prerequisite, but I won't. I won't tell you a secret with that. Starting with version 14, and the goal right now is to go on 16. We are not. Since we are an editor of solutions, we cannot be, and we don't want to be always to the very latest version, because we have a life cycle of our project that's a little bit slower. So we are in the verge of upgrading, and now our goal is 60. So no monorepo, obviously, because our projects are separated. And we have dynamic module federation and multiple features exposed via a single manifest. And since we are on a Spring Boot, we need to implement hash routing in our Angular applications. Otherwise, the HTML routing of the features will be catched by the Spring context, and it won't work. Okay, or it can be done, but it's very complicated. So the hash routing, it's good. It's a good trade-off. So now we have done the Angular configuration and how we vision the solution. We had a few experiments, so validate some of the assertion that we had at the beginning. So an Angular only proof of concept. So how can I load multiple features in a dynamic module federation, because I didn't do that before, so I was not sure. How can I discuss easily with the NGRX context, and is it loaded unified? Even that I was not sure of that. So how will behave my NGRX context? A Spring only proof of concept, so to see how we will deploy a dynamic module within the context of an existing application, and hopefully all together, but not exactly the target. But what I will show you is the most advanced proof of concept with maybe almost all the components. Okay, so maybe other validation like standalone routing, because we are climbing up to V16 and hoping to catch up with the latest features of Angular. All right. Maybe a few issues and ongoing work. So refreshing a page on a distant module. I don't know exactly, but what I could observe, of course, when you try to hit refresh on a distant module, well, you refresh the whole application, but the route that it's asking is not already loaded. So I need it's quite a basic startup configuration for the module inside the application. It's probably not the best, and it needs to be addressed, of course, to go further. Maybe handle the cross features navigation, because it's not mandatory, but I was wondering how it could work, because obviously if I'm in a new feature, I don't know what's in the main applications. And maybe I can provide the micro frontend with some additional context to tell this micro frontend, okay, there are these kind of screens that can be accessed through conventions. It's not already done. Handle version fragmentation. I know that you insist on your documentation about that. We have today a strict release strategy, so it's not easy to ensure the version fragmentation between the application, but we have a strict release strategy that says, okay, we need to produce this application for this client, and we know we control which version the core framework. When I say core framework, I mean our core application framework based on Angular. And we know exactly what we produce. So there's not such a big risk, but obviously we will have multiple applications with independent configuration and version handling. So we need to be careful about that. And the last point, I was wondering how the specific builder that's handling the Webpack and the macro frontend configuration, how it will be integrated in our CI/CD and how it will work in our existing development environment. Maybe I still need to push a little bit on this and to be sure that everything works smoothly. Okay, so enough for the talk. Maybe you have some questions already, but maybe after the demo.
Yeah, perhaps about the strict release strategy. Does that mean that you enforce a specific version? So everyone who wants to plug in their plugins needs to go with this or that Angular version. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. We decide which version we published based on the Maven build system. We made a plugin in our Maven build chain that it's run by our CI/CD, and every time we want to make the release of our Java Spring core module, in the same time we produce the same version for our Angular core library. Okay, so this is the heart of our versioning system. Maybe it's not the future-proof strategy, but this is what we have now. So we need to address that in terms of that kind of issue, like this issue right now about macro frontend, but maybe about other kind of issues. Is it the best? And we need to reassess that maybe in the future. Okay, but today this is what we have.
Yeah, I think if you are in the position to enforce this, then that's a perfect solution, because you don't need to deal with different frameworks or framework versions. You don't need all those nasty workarounds. So if you can enforce it, then I think I would enforce it.
Yeah, it will be obviously handled by hand by human, but it will be enforced. So as you say, there should be no surprise. Maybe there will be human error, but there should not be surprise. And we don't need to guess. Maybe that's what I think. Okay. Can we go to the demo?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So the first situation I want to show you is the very simple situation between a very basic application. So here you have a basic Spring Boot application. Okay, and the point is to say this is going to be deployed within a classical Tomcat server, and how it works. It will work like this with a. Let me get this. Where is it? Oh no, it's here. Okay, this is the library. Okay, and this will be built as a jar. Okay, so this will be a library that will be added to the context of an application. So just to show you very quickly, we will have something that you tell me if maybe it's too small or something. So we will have, okay, let's go this. I go on my Tomcat. Imagine you are at the client. So this is an application that we deploy on a client server. Okay, this one, and it will have in its context. It should be here. Tick. Yeah, here. Okay, you have the release of the library. What does it do? Okay, it does something really simple. It does add a context to an existing application. So, okay, this one will stop. This one is the Tomcat server. Okay, it's running the application. It's a Spring basic application, and what we want to do is just to confirm, but it's really only for myself, because I'm not the Spring expert in the company. So you have here, okay, you have here the basic application, and when you add the library, okay, you enjoy a component more. So it doesn't look like much, but this one is produced in the same Spring context by the library. Okay, so it's all together. That's the base of our experiment. Now we have an Angular application. This one is on. This little test is pretty irrelevant, so I won't go further on this. But the other one is interesting because it's the Angular application. So what I wanted to experiment is a few things. It was I think I put it on the GitHub. So maybe this one. Pop. Where is it? Up. Yeah, here it is. So the point of this one, okay, is I have the micro front end, a shell. It's called shell 2, and serving also a core library that's used to discuss between both. And one of the main point I wanted to, of course, host the manifest. So the manifest, if I say right, is here. So this is the manifest, and of course it's hard coded. Okay, and the point was not to validate how to serve the manifest, because it's the next step. All right. So we have the micro front end, the shell, and the configuration. You know everything, I guess, by heart. So we have this whole configuration, and the way our framework works, the style is all handled by the core framework. Okay, and that's why when I made this kind of test, I didn't want no style at all produced by the micro frontend. Okay, that was really my point. We need to develop the micro frontend exactly like we develop the screen of the main application. So we have convention to have some kind of design system to follow, and there will be basically no style declared in the micro frontend. So this one start like a regular application, everyone on his own port, and it works basically like multiple Angular server applications. I don't know if it's going to be fast enough. So what can I say? Maybe there's nothing also that much relevant here. Maybe one of my questions was, yeah, it was, no, not this one. Yeah, the micro front end. And that's what something I was wondering, and I did search a little bit and I was not sure. Like this one, all right, this exposes multiple features, and also going from routing modules in like Angular 13 and going to the static standalone routes, okay, and check if it still works. Okay, obviously it works. It works like a charm. So that's a lot of time experimenting and retrying and so okay, the result is something like that. We see that the screen are loading after. You see, I kept the flight name because I know that you like that that kind of that
It's
kind
our
of
example,
yeah, of demos. So but okay, the goal was here. I have the manifest. The manifest is simply served by an HTTP server on a specific. It's hard coded, as I said, but it's still doing the job and loading. Okay, the micro front end. What I tried to do also was checking if, well, my NGRX store was correctly loaded. So I have a current user. This one is in the main application. This one is called in the micro front end. So okay, obviously the NGRX work like expected. So that's a good news. A little bit call to sorry, to a core server service, and it works like expected. So everything looks quite fine. Okay, that's for the full Angular application. I think we have everything we want here. So the core is the library, the shared library. Here the experiment is in the mono repo, but it's irrelevant for our next iteration. Okay. So I will kill this one, and now for our goal. I'll show you a little bit like how does it look like. So we have an application. This is the Spring Boot application. This one will be starting. Okay, like here we can see that there's a starter class for our Spring Boot application. And inside this one, we have an Angular application. Okay, this one is the shell. We have a core package. This one will mainly have a few classes, and we will see how will we use them. Okay, this is a pure Java library, so it's called core, but it's not the same as the other one that we saw maybe very quickly. This one, okay, this one is the the Angular core library, and it's used to share Angular stuff like NGRX stuff and maybe models and stuff like that. Okay, so this will be very useful, this core Maven module. And here we have a library. So this library will be our dynamic module that will be produced as a jar module and added to an existing application. Okay, so this is an application, and this is the library, and both they have Java code and Angular application. Okay. So how can we say that to Spring Boot that we want to enrich? So the point is to have an endpoint that will serve the manifest of our micro frontends. Okay, so let's start this one, and we will see how it looks like through the browser. the main stuff in as I said very quickly in the presentation is to use something called a provider. Okay, and what the application will do, it will look for every class that implements this manifest provider. Okay, and that's very handy, because here we will have a manifest provider for this macro frontend, and obviously we can imagine multiple macro frontend. So this one, it will expose, and as you can see here, this proof of concept still has some hard-coded stuff. And here you can see, okay, I know what will be my macro frontend in this application, and I hard-coded them. But obviously, you can imagine some kind of dynamic loading through some kind of maybe configuration files or database, any kind of loading, this kind of informations. But it raised some questions, because of course you probably won't store the definitions of your Angular modules in a database. Maybe a configuration file would be more appropriate. Okay, so this one is it will be read by the main application. It will enrich an existing endpoint. Okay, that's existing here in our application. So we will have here a manifest. It's this one. Okay, and it will oh, okay, it's not this one, it's another one, because it must be, yeah, it must be here. Yeah, it's this one. Okay, this one, it's declared in the code library, and it will serve everything you can find, okay, in the configuration of the classes loaded in the Spring context. So there's an implementation here, and it's basically trying to find everything that implements the provider. Okay, so that's something that's very powerful. Okay, so it takes the manifest provider and it says, okay, everything that implements manifest provider, you give them to me. That's quite powerful, and you can see that there are some iterations that I tried to get to my goal. Okay, so the result of this should be, if everything was okay, something like that. Okay, let's see in the network. So we have this one, okay, and this one, okay, is served by our application, okay, and it's loading the configuration that it exposed. That it exposed by our library module. So it says, here are my micro frontends. And obviously the loading works like expected. So we have the plans and the orders screens. And I wanted also to see if the sub navigation works. It works like it should, and everything is as it should. One of the pinpoint of this, because when you go to the configuration, you have something like this, and of course this is the micro frontend, and it's without style, but it works exactly like expected. So it shows us that indeed a micro frontend that is bundled inside our library, okay, this is the micro frontend, is indeed hosted like expected. Okay, plans and order and everything like we are supposed to see. I have a few I don't know, I'm wondering myself, is it mandatory that we have this whole shell application, and because this is a running application, but obviously we don't need this home screen, and we only need these two features. And my question was, should I really? But I know that because I need to have this application in the sense of Angular, because it's a micro frontend. I know that I need a shell, a pseudo shell to host this, because otherwise the module won't be available. But I guess maybe in the future, maybe we'll have something maybe a little bit different. But that's something that wonders me sometimes. But it's not a big deal. So now, okay, we have our two features, and one of the things, of course, that we had to do is to say, okay, I am a micro front end, so I need my place, okay, in this Spring Web context, okay. And how it will do like this with a simple configuration, and we'll say, okay, when we try to hit that kind of URL, okay, and as we saw earlier, well, you won't intercept in the classical context of the Spring application. You will give it your context, and your context, what is it? Well, it's the micro front end that we deploy. If we look into here, that we deploy in the Spring resources, okay, the web resources. So this one, when we build our micro front end, it will go straight to the sources, the web resources here, okay. And we need to say to Spring, this one, it's considered as a root endpoint of an application. So as many macro front end as I will push into this application, as many root Angular application I will have, and I will be able to touch every micro front end that will be added through this method. Right. So this is the result. It's not obviously it's not the screen of our real applications, but it's close enough in terms of technology, and still there's some a little bit of work, and I hope I don't hope, I know we will reach something very very interesting thanks to this great feature like that are the module federation. So I can only be very thankful for the guys who work hard on this technology, because it was not that obvious at the start. And
cool. Yeah, thank you. I will tell him.
Right.
I will tell him.
Yeah, and I did not go very far from your documentations. I really wanted to stay as close as possible, from everything you did present, and it was a complicated context enough to try to experiment too much. So you can see that there's nothing really fancy in this configuration. It's basic Angular application, and as I told you, this one it's what we need now, and with the new version it will be a little bit different, but it's the same. But it's one of the questions that I have for the future, how it will integrate in our build system and our development environment. But I'm not really scared by that. I think it won't be really really complicated. So here you are the whole manifest conceptualization, like the controllers, the class itself, and the provider, and with that you have this I hope rather dynamic loading of a module within a Spring Boot application. And
Nice.
I think I told you pretty much everything.
Awesome. Yeah, it's really a nice case study, especially because it combines both worlds of a plugin, namely the
Yeah,
backend world and the front-end world. You need both, obviously, for a plugin.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and honestly, when I started to think about that, I was really I was not sure. Okay, I was telling myself, okay, micro front end, it's as many hosting server likes that as micro front end, and it did not last long. But I said, okay, actually, a micro front end is nothing more than maybe a folder on a web server, So
Yeah.
if it's configured properly, we can host everything in the same place, and that's that's the start of the thinking. So yeah, that's that's our project, and it's going pretty well.
Awesome. Yeah, so thanks for taking the time.
Well, thank you for taking the time.
And yeah, see you around.
Okay, thank you, Manfred, and see
Thank
you
you.
next time. Bye bye.
Bye bye.